Hello, friends, family, loved ones, saints, strangers, red, yellow, black, white, whoever's watching. God loves you. So do I. I'm here to read you another story. Joseph and his brothers, the last one on the last story of Joseph's story in this book, in the volume 1. And remember last time we read about Father Jacob making Joseph a brand new coat. His brothers were, well, they hadn't had a chance to get jealous yet. Anyway, I'm doing this video earlier in the day. It's so hot in the afternoon, about 80, 90 degrees. And you never know if it could rain. I went to Cades Cove the other day and it was beautiful. Didn't see any bears. Heard some crows and saw some squirrels and a nuthatch that came close in the tree, and some vicious dogs in the picnic area. But I got to soak my feet in the icy cold stream, which felt really good, and it was nice. It was a nice time to get away. So I decided, since I couldn't sleep well, to go ahead and get up and start my day. And I've had my devotions, and I just thought maybe it'd be a good time to do another video. And it's almost the end of August. We're in the next to last week. We've got after the end of this week, we've got 12 days left in the month. So no, not 12 days, 10 days. Trying to think. There's 2 extra days at the end of next week. So this month has flown by fast. I don't know why time suddenly seems to go by fast all of a sudden, but it has. I've gotten lots of little cherry tomatoes off my cherry tomato plant. Right now there's none on there, but there's some green ones. And the other tomato plants have not done anything. The Golden Jubilee that's back here has it's just never flowered. I guess the bees kind of hid when they had their blooms out, and they have some blooms out. And there's some critter that's coming along and biting off the little bud stem, so I'm not happy about that. And the Mr. Stripey out front is the saddest looking thing I've ever seen. I thought he'd be happier in the sunshine, but apparently he's just been, I don't know if he's gotten too much sun. He's gotten more rain than these guys back here, I think. Not too much, but anyway, he's all shriveled and sunk, and it looks sad. So enough about me. Let's go ahead and read about Joseph and his brothers, and this is found in Genesis 37 and 38. Remember, Joseph is showing off his new coat now. And do these brothers look very happy? No, they're thinking, boy, we just got a plain coat or a striped coat. We didn't get this pretty coat here. There's another brother coming to see. Joseph had 11 brothers. There was 12 brothers total, and Joseph and Benjamin were from Rachel. Remember, Rachel is was the favorite wife of Jacob. And Leah and 2 of the maid servants had the other 11, and a girl named Dinah. So Joseph is the oldest, and Benjamin his brother, and then the other boys. So there's 10. Well, I don't think Benjamin was really jealous of his brother. It doesn't seem to be, but the other 10 were. Joseph showed his new coat of many colors to his 10 older brothers. They said, "Our father never made us coats of many colors." The brothers were angry, very angry, because of Joseph's new coat. They were a little bit older than this. They looked like they're teenagers, but I think they were like men. One night while Joseph lay sleeping, he dreamed a dream. A strange dream. He dreamed he and his brothers were in the field tying sheaves of wheat. Suddenly his sheep stood up straight and tall. His brother's sheep gathered around and bowed to his sheep. And here's Joseph sleeping, and they're out in the field. And there's the one standing straight up, so you can see it's Joseph, because he's got his coat of many colors, and all the other ones are bowing down. Joseph told his brothers the strange dream. That was his first mistake. And you have dreams, unless you're pretty sure, they're already jealous of him because he got that beautiful coat, and now he's telling them his dreams. Do you think this makes them happy? Joseph told his brothers a strange dream. They said, "Do you think we are going to bow down to you?" The brothers were angry, very angry, because of Joseph's strange dream. Now he couldn't help what he dreamed. I can't usually control what I dream, and I've dreamed some pretty strange dreams, but I don't always tell everybody. Joseph's brothers went to a faraway place to find green grass for the sheep. When they had been gone a long time, Father Jacob said to Joseph, "Go see if your brothers are well, and if it be well with the sheep." Sheep take a lot of pasture, so the father had to send Joseph away. The brothers had to go away to find grass for the sheep, and Joseph was going to check on them. And here's Father and Benjamin, Jacob and Benjamin, waving goodbye. See, this doesn't look very green anymore. It's kind of brown. Sheep ate it all up. Joseph put on his coat of many colors. He's not going to travel without that one. He said goodbye to his father. He said goodbye to his little brother Benjamin. Then he began the long, long walk. Joseph walked and walked and walked. At last, from the top of the hill, he saw his brothers and the sheep camped by the road that leads to Egypt. Joseph shouted to them. He waved to them. He was happy to see them. Of course he was. He hadn't seen them in a while. But Joseph's brothers were not happy to see him. They said, "There comes that dreamer." When he came near, they took hold of him. They pulled off his coat of many colors. They threw him into a deep pit. Joseph begged them to take him out of the pit and let him go home, but they paid no attention to his cries. They sat down and ate their lunch and didn't give Joseph even a crust. See, here they are, and they've got his coat, and they're sitting down eating. And here's this pit, and here's little Joseph at the bottom. He's down there. "Hey, let me out, guys. I thought you loved me." Here's some sheep over here. I guess some of them sit down and eat, and the others take care of the sheep. And they take turns eating and watching the sheep. Down the dusty road that leads to Egypt came traders with their camels. Said the brothers, "Let's sell Joseph to the traders." So they took Joseph up out of the pit and sold him for 20 pieces of silver. If you think you have siblings that cause you trouble, they don't have anything on them, because here they are exchanging money with the traders. As long as your siblings haven't sold you into slavery, then you're pretty good. And here's Joseph. He doesn't look very happy. Looks kind of panicked. I think I would be too. I have 3 older siblings, but they never tried to sell me into slavery. They did tell me that the UPS man brought me, but they never tried to sell me, thank goodness. The traders took Joseph and went on their way. From the road, Joseph could see the hills where his father's tent was pitched. He knew Benjamin was there with his father. If only he could be there too. Joseph cried and cried and cried. Then Joseph stopped crying. He said, "I will be brave. God will take care of me." See, here's Joseph praying. It's like a full moon there. And he's being a little missionary to these traders. They're wondering, hey, this guy quit crying. And now he's riding on his camel there. I think they might have had him tied up, but because, slaves. But down in Egypt, the traders sold Joseph to a man named Potiphar. Joseph had to work hard. His legs got tired, his back got tired, but he did his work well. When he swept the floor, he was careful to sweep in the corners. When he pulled weeds in the garden, he pulled every one. Potiphar said, "You are a good worker, Joseph." It's like they made him up like an Egyptian. I don't know if that's some kind of a wig or if they just dyed and cut his hair that way. There's a nice little place with a little idol there. A bench, some flowers. See, he doesn't have that same hairstyle. His hair might have been that color, but don't know. Joseph learned to talk like the people of Egypt. Joseph wore clothes like the people of Egypt. He cut his hair like the people of Egypt. Well, now you know it's not a wig. But there was one thing he would never do like the people of Egypt. The people of Egypt prayed to an idol or to a cat, sometimes even to a frog. But Joseph prayed always to the God of heaven, as Jacob his father had taught him. Here's Joseph praying. Sure enough, he's dressed like the people of Egypt. His hair is like the people of Egypt. And here, they're out here praying to, this might be Horus. He's got like the head of a falcon. They've got different gods. There's an alligator. There was a one with the head of a dog, Anubis. I know that's a popular one. And all kinds of different ones, and they each are supposed to control part of the elements. You know the story of Moses, how he's and how he led the children of Israel out of Egypt. And there was the 10 plagues. Well, each of those plagues was like a test against each of the gods. It was I don't know what the word exactly is, but it was against each one of the gods of Egypt. There was a god for the sun. Remember, there was 3 days of darkness. There was a god for the river, for the Nile River. And remember, the first plague was blood. And there was a frog plague. Remember, it just said they even prayed to a frog. And there was a plague of frogs. And flies. I think they had a fly god. So each one of those plagues was to show that the Egyptians that their gods weren't as powerful as the God in heaven, the God of Moses. Many years went by. Joseph grew to be a very wise man. Now it happened that the king of Egypt wanted a very wise man to build storehouses and to fill the storehouses with corn. The king said, "Where could I find a man wiser than Joseph? Excuse me. I will get Joseph to build the storehouses. I will have Joseph fill them with corn." Now the part here is Potiphar's wife tried to seduce Joseph, and Joseph wouldn't be seduced. He worked for Potiphar, and he said, "Well, this is Potiphar's wife. I'm not going to have anything to do with her." And she grabbed his coat, and he ran away, leaving his coat behind. Well, then his wife claimed that Joseph had tried to attack her. And Potiphar had him thrown in jail. Well, Joseph was in jail for, I think, a total of 3 years. And during that time, there was a point when the king's butler and the king's cupbearer and the king's baker came. They displeased the king, so he had him thrown in jail. And they both had dreams one night, and they didn't know what they meant. And Joseph said, "Well, I serve a God that interprets dreams. Let me know your dreams." So the baker said, "Oh, I dreamed that there was this vine, and there were some grapes on it. And I went to the grapes. I had Pharaoh's cup in my hand, and I squeezed the grapes." I think he said there was 3 grapevines. And I squeezed the grapes into the cup, and then I took it to Pharaoh. And Joseph said the 3 vines stand for 3 days. In 3 days, you're going to get your job back. So the baker said, "Well, I had a dream. I had 3 pies. in my hand, and there was birds that came down and started pecking on them. Well, what does that mean? And Joseph said, well, the 3 pies stand for 3 days as well. In 3 days, Pharaoh's going to have you executed. Well, sure enough, in 3 days, that's exactly what happened. The cupbearer was put back in his position, and the baker was executed. Guess whatever they'd done, the king figured it was with his food and had them thrown in. And after his investigation, it was all over, and figured out who the culprit was. Well, Joseph asked the cupbearer, he said, when you get back to Pharaoh's presence, can you tell him about me? Because I've been in here a little bit, and I'd like to be able to get out. You know, I was accused wrongly. See, Potiphar was the chief executioner. If he had believed his wife's story that Joseph had attacked her, then he would have had him put to death, but he didn't. He was just thrown in jail. Well, Joseph was a really good worker in Potiphar's house, and they put him in charge of the prisons even though he was a prisoner, and he was able to, and the things went well in the prison. So he was kind of running the prison unofficially, even though he was a prisoner. So, well, the cupbearer got out, and he forgot about Joseph. So I told you Joseph was in there a total of 3 years, and he's probably in there a year and a half, or maybe a year, when they got thrown in. Then he told them their dream, so he's in there another 2 years, perhaps. So one night the Pharaoh had a dream. He said, I dreamed there was 7 fat cows that came up out of the river. And after them, 7 skinny cows came up out of the river. And the 7 skinny cows ate up the 7 fat cows. And they were still as skinny as before. Then I woke up. He said, I went back to sleep and I dreamed another dream. There was 7 ears of corn on a stalk. And there were 7 skinny ears of corn that came up on the stalk. And the 7 skinny ears ate up the 7 fat ears. And they were still as skinny as before. And nobody could interpret that dream. All of a sudden the cupbearer, maybe it's one of these bald guys, said, you know, when I was in prison, remember, I had displeased you in some way. I was in the prison with the baker, and there was a guy there, and we had dreams about what was going to happen to us. And this guy in prison, his name is Joseph, and he interpreted our dreams, and they came true. And he said, I was supposed to tell you about him before, but I forgot, you know. And Pharaoh said, well, bring him up. So they brought Joseph out, cleaned him up, and he was able to tell the Pharaoh the dreams. The 7 he said the 7 cows and the 7 ears of corn, the fat ones, mean 7 years of plenty. And the 7 skinny ears and the 7 skinny cows mean 7 years of famine. What this means is we're going to have the next 7 years are going to be really plentiful. The harvest is going to be as never before. There's going to be a lot of food, and it's going to be great. But the problem is it's going to be followed by the 7 years of famine, and it's going to be so severe that the years of plenty nobody's going to remember the 7 years of plenty. So Pharaoh said, well, what should I do? And Joseph said, well, Pharaoh is wise, so you need to find a man who knows what he's doing and to store up grain during the 7 years of plenty, so there'll be food during the famine. So, this is where he tells Joseph, I'm going to have you build the storehouses and fill them with corn. It kind of skips some of the story. So the king made Joseph ruler of Egypt next to himself. So Joseph is the number 2 in the land, or the number 3 if you count the queen. He said to the people of Egypt, "Whatever Joseph says, you must do." Joseph rode in a shiny chariot. He drove a team of prancing horses. Joseph built the storehouses for the king. He filled the storehouses with corn. So here he's in his shiny chariot talking to one of the workmen. He's got a nice set of horses, and they're building storehouses. They had to start storing up right away. Remember, he said that the 7 years of plenty would not be remembered once the famine. Then came the time of no rain. Actually, I think it was the flooding of the Nile. They depended on the flooding of the Nile to help them, and I'm thinking that's probably what it was. Probably no rain as well. And because there was no rain, nothing grew. There was no corn for the people to eat, no corn for the cows or the horses. The people cried to the king, "Give us corn or we die." The king said, "Go to Joseph, he will help you." Joseph opened up the storehouses and sold the people corn. And here he is, he's got a helper at the table. He's take your name and how much corn you need. And they got the storehouses and the guys are bringing the bags of corn to the hungry people. One day Joseph saw 10 little donkeys with empty sacks on their backs coming toward the storehouse where he was selling corn. Beside the 10 little donkeys walked his 10 older brothers. The brothers didn't know Joseph, but Joseph knew them. They bowed to Joseph with their faces to the ground. Joseph remembered his dream about the sheaves. Yeah. Remember the story back here? About the sheaves bowing down? There's Joseph right here. And the sheaves all bowed down to him. And now here he is, all these years later, and his brothers are bowing down to him. This guy's bringing corn out. And here's their little donkeys right there. And they don't recognize him because Joseph didn't look like that last time they saw him. And now he does. Joseph talked with his brothers, but he didn't tell them who he was. Not yet. "Is your father well?" asked Joseph. "Do you have another brother?" "Our father is well," they said. "We have a younger brother at home." "When you come again to buy corn," said Joseph, "bring your younger brother with you." Joseph filled their empty sacks with corn, and the 10 little donkeys went home. Well, first he said they were spies. He kept them in jail for 3 days. And then he picked Simeon to stay behind. That was one of the brothers of the donkeys going away. And he said he's going to stay here as, so you guys will come back. Because if you don't come back, he's going to stay in here in prison. So he kept Simeon, because I think he saw that Simeon was the instigator of, selling him into slavery and throwing him in the pit and all that. So they stayed in jail for 3 days, and then after 3 days, he sent them home with their corn. And he said, "You're not going to get any more corn or see my face until you bring Benjamin back." Well, after Jacob lost Rachel, and then he lost Joseph, he wasn't going to send Benjamin. So he told them, no, he's not going to send them. But Judah, remember Jesus comes through the line of Judah. Judah said, "I will take care of Benjamin. If something happens to me, I'll be responsible, and I'll go to my grave with that on my head." So he says, "I'll take care of Benjamin." So they have to go and take Benjamin. Here's when they're harvesting the corn in the fields during the time of plenty. There's Joseph there. He's thinking seriously. Everybody's taking a water break. The brothers came again to buy corn. This time Benjamin was with them. Joseph stood up before his brothers, and they still did not know him. Then he said, "I am Joseph." Benjamin was happy to see Joseph, but the 10 older brothers were afraid. They said, "Now Joseph will punish us for selling him to the traders." But Joseph said, "Don't be afraid. Come to me." Joseph hugged Benjamin and all his brothers. And he was so overcome. It was actually after a meal that they had that he let them know himself. When they came back, they said, "Oh, by the way, there was money in our sacks from the last time we bought grain." And he saw that Benjamin was there, and he was so overcome because Benjamin was his real blood brother. So he saw Benjamin, and he left the room. And so then he brought all the guys into his house, and they were having a feast. And he kept sending Benjamin a lot of food, a lot more than the other brothers. He wanted to see how they'd react to Benjamin, to see if they'd changed, to see how he, versus how he was treated, because Benjamin was the new favored brother since Joseph was gone. So he wanted to know if his brothers were still angry about it or what. When they went to leave, he said, "Put their money back in their sacks and take my silver cup and put it in the sack of the youngest one, Benjamin." So they had their feast. They went on their way and with their corn, and they were going back home. And somebody from Joseph's house, probably his steward, said, his cup is missing, and you're the only visitors we've had today. So, you must have stolen it. We're going to start in this guy's sack, and we're going to go down the line. So they started probably with Reuben, because he was the oldest, and they went down to Benjamin. They found the cup in his sack. He said, "You have to come back. You're going to be his slave." And, well, since they'd all promised their father they were going to make sure Benjamin made it back home, they all went back, and he said, "The rest of you go home. I just want this guy for my slave." And they said, and Judah said that, "Well, our father's old, and there's 10 of us at home. But Benjamin is the only son left of our father. That makes it 11 brothers. One of our brothers is gone. We don't know where he is." Because they didn't. They sold him to the slave traders going to Egypt, and that was the end of it. They didn't think they'd see him anymore. So they didn't know that Joseph made it to Egypt. So he said, "If we don't bring him back, our father's going to go down with all his hair on his head, and with all his hair on his head, with his gray head to the grave." He's going to go to his grave mourning for, it's going to be the end of him. This news is going to be so bad, he's not going to be able to handle it. So that's when Joseph was so overcome, he sent his helpers out, and they thought that he didn't understand, their language, had interpreters, and that's when he said, "I am Joseph." So they were probably inside, but they're outside here. They look pretty happy, but they were actually kind of scared. And that's when he said, "Don't be afraid." Joseph's brothers were now good, kind men. See, he had to test them. They were sorry for what they had done. Joseph gave each of them a new coat. I think he gave like 5 to Benjamin. He sent home with his brothers many presents for Jacob his father. He sent wagons to move them all down to Egypt, where there was plenty of corn. Here's a helper. His helper's happy, and he's giving them clothes. I think this is Benjamin. And they got a big old wagon here to take him home. Joseph watched the road, and one day he saw the wagons he had sent, and the 10 little donkeys, and his brothers with his father's sheep, all coming down the road to Egypt. Joseph jumped into his chariot. He galloped his horses up the road to meet them. Look at his fancy chariot. That's very pretty. Look at his horses. They got a feather plume in their head. And he's so excited. Look at him go. And you can see the dust cloud of the train. The train of guys coming way back here, close to his chest. See? And there they come. Joseph's so excited he's finally going to see his dad after so many years. When Jacob saw Joseph coming, he climbed down from the wagon. Joseph jumped down from his chariot. He ran to his father and threw his arms around him. He hugged him and hugged him. Now Joseph and his father and Benjamin and his 10 older brothers would all live together happily in the land of Egypt. There's Joseph coming to see his father, and here's his father. And the brothers they seem happy now too, that their father can finally see Joseph again. And that's how they all get down to Egypt. And then several hundred years later, well, I have to say probably maybe 20 years later, they become slaves. And a pharaoh that says he didn't know Joseph, but he knew. He just didn't want to remember that a foreigner saved Egypt from famine. So that's the story of Joseph, how he went from a spoiled child to a grown-up man who saved Egypt and probably most of the then world at the time. So today's August the 21st, I believe, almost the end of the month, and next time we will read about baby Moses. It's actually in the same book, because that's the next one that comes along. So I'm looking forward to doing that again, and I hope you all have a wonderful day, and take care of yourselves, stay safe, and just to enjoy life, enjoy the outside, what you can do. Just try to be safe as you can, and get plenty of sleep, drink lots of water, and eat healthy, and we will all make it through this madness and the end of the world. Alright, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!